Welcome back to another episode of Love of the Star. I'm Eric Chiafalo alongside the Super Bowl winning scout Brian Broaddus. And of course, we are brought to you by the On Time Experts, the official AC heating and plumbing partner of the Love of the Star podcast and of the Dallas Cowboys. Make sure you check them out because you can call on the On Time Experts and they'll come to your home the same day, backed by their Stay Cool guarantee. Visit theontimeexperts.com and click the Book Now button. And man, we handled business versus the Jets. And now we're on to the Panthers. Broaddus will have a full Panthers offense breakdown coming up here in just a few minutes. But let's go ahead and do a little housekeeping around the team right now. And, man, we were all a little bit leaking confidence, Broaddus, going into that Jets game. Handle business with 4 out of 5 starters out on the offensive line. No Turpin. Hello, Ryan Flanoy. No CD Lamb. Hello, Ryan Flanoy. George Pickens gets his touchdown. They test Sauce just a little bit, just enough to get George involved for the big touchdown. And the pass rush came alive. I mean, I'm feeling – I got to be honest, I'm feeling pretty good right now, Broaddus.
Well, there's things to feel good about. What you continue to see from this offense has been very encouraging, whether it's backups coming in and taking major roles and how the team moves the football. Quarterback is playing at a very, very high level. We all understand that, but it really takes the pieces around him. They're running the ball well. There's a time that we've all talked about when you lost one offensive lineman and it was like the end of the world. Couldn't move the ball, couldn't run the ball, couldn't protect. But with this group, a lot of those guys that played in that game had been getting work during the preseason. They played in games together. They were able to, they got a good week of practice together. It's going to be nice. Don't get me wrong, to have Booker and Guyton and those guys back in the lineup, but you have to give a tip of the cap to the coaching staff, the offensive line coaches, and then also what the players have been able to do. Let's not forget that, because they really have not missed a beat when it comes to how they've been able to generate offense. Against a Jet defense that when we previewed it last week, there were a couple of different pieces that you had to worry about with the pass rush. You had to worry about a defensive tackle, and you had to worry about a cornerback that was going to travel with your best player. And you needed guys to step up. You needed to run the football effectively. They did, made some huge plays in the running game that way, but also the ability to throw the football was pretty impressive, and protect was pretty impressive as well.
Yeah, man, I think we are, for the time being, we are in a new era of Cowboys football where the coaching staff is legit. The players have 100% bought in. They're playing with confidence despite being down so many players. Like previous regimes don't win that football game. And if they do, it's a nail biter. It's like 17-14, and they get a lucky bounce here or there, maybe a crazy special teams play or something like that. But this was not an eke it out victory. This was pedal to the metal. We're going to be aggressive, and we're going to get out there. And they score 37 points. And you mentioned Dak playing his tail off right now. You still have the run game working at a high level. I thought they got Lipke involved nicely, and he actually played pretty well from a blocking standpoint. Had that nice swing pass on third down, third and long to go get you a first. There was just so many things to like about the way they approached it, and it just has me fired up. Clayton Adams, Connor Riley, Brian Schottenheimer, we've been talking about this for a while now, but these guys continue to be able to overcome adversity in a way that previous coaching staffs were never able to do. And now you're talking about a guy like Javonte Williams on pace for 1,500 yards and 20 touchdowns. Are you kidding me? George Pickens before the season, can he be a 1,000-yard wide receiver alongside CeeDee Lamb? He's on pace for 1,200 yards and like 17 touchdowns. Wasn't able to find Pater that much in Pittsburgh, but it's a different deal here now when you have an offensive coordinator and play designer like Brian Schottenheimer and Clayton Adams, when you have a quarterback like Dak Prescott. And I thought he was going to benefit from CeeDee Lamb, obviously, a ton, being able to score some touchdowns. But here he is without Lamb on the field, still finding ways to get into the end zone. You have the Flanoy stuff. Ferguson has had a dynamite season. Great design on that screenplay for his touchdown. Like, this is so much fun offensively right now, man. I'm loving it.
Yeah, they've done a really nice job. The cohesion between the play call and the quarterback looks like it is taking taking hold in a nice way there. He's seeing the field very well. The play action game has been tremendous. I think a lot of it has to do with the way that Williams has played. I think if you ask me, which is the best addition, if you look at in the offseason, and I know I asked you guys this question yesterday on 105.3 The Fan, which was the best offensive addition last year. You're going to talk about the offensive line coaches or the running back. I think this running back has made a huge difference in how they play football now. The physicality that he plays with, the ability to take a negative play and make it a positive play. The 3rd and 1 carry that he had down in the near close red zone, where he was basically, it was going to be a -2 play, and he was able to get 2 yards out of it himself. Just going forward, that you get stopped there in a negative thing. Brian Schottenheimer's probably sending out the field goal unit to go get 3 points. Instead, the very next play, they throw the screen pass you mentioned that was well set up, well designed. But this running game has been very, very special, and it's allowed the quarterback to play, against some coverages where it could actually, manipulate it and make some plays. His willingness to throw the ball down the field, his willingness to throw beyond the sticks. We're not seeing the hooks and curls. You'll see the occasional slant. They had a big slant catch coming off the goal line, right before the half to kind of get them going to, then you get the big run from Williams to get you that, down to the position to get the touchdown. But it is a completely different offense when it comes to the way it's attacking. And, you really don't even have your really your best motion guy or your most explosive player when you talk about Turpin. There's a lot that he does in the game to help you with the threats and stuff like that. So they did a really good job of managing a very difficult situation. As you mentioned in the past, one they would have probably lost the game of because it was just too many bodies not available for it.
Yeah, and it's a great question of like the offseason addition that means the most. Is it a guy like Clayton Adams? Is it a guy like Javonte Williams? And they've both been absolutely awesome for what their job is. Like the Cowboys are 3rd in the league in yards before contact. So that's credit to play designer, that's credit to offensive linemen. And right now you have the Dallas Cowboys still maintaining the top spot in the league in rushing success rate. Meanwhile, in Arizona, where Clayton Adams left, they are dead balls last at 32 in rushing success rate this year. So you can see how much of a loss he was for Arizona and how much of a difference maker he's been for the Dallas Cowboys. And Javonte Williams has been great after contact as well. So you just have like a beautiful mixture of great design, great scheme, offensive line doing its job, and a running back who's making the absolute most of everything right now.
Yeah, and Eric.
Oh no. Okay, Broadus has maybe his computer died. There was some level of a crap out situation. So we sit here now and we await the return of the Super Bowl champion Brian Broadus. I will throw out one more nugget for you, for our fantastic listeners. Thank you so much, by the way, for hanging out with us. Whatever you're doing right now, maybe you're at the gym, maybe you're driving around, eating a meal, cleaning up the house, driving to work, whatever you're doing. We appreciate you being with us. How about this for a nugget? Dak Prescott, his total EPA, expected points added, on play action this year is a plus 20, basically, just shy of 20. And that's on play action, right? Dak Prescott total EPA on play action, the previous 3 years combined is a +9. So they've already more than doubled their success when it comes to the play action game. Broadus is now back in the saddle. We good?
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. That was kind of an AI takeover there. Something was going on in there. Just something popped up and away we went. It was like lost a little control of the computer there. Sorry about that, folks.
No, all good, all good. I was just giving the play action numbers where I mean
Yeah,
they're using play
it's
action at a high level, and the
yeah,
success
they
is,
are.
I mean, their production is more than twice through 5 games. Dak Prescott's play action production is more than twice than what it was for the previous 3 years combined. Like truly, truly
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Well, and give Dak credit too for there was a time where Dak Prescott turning his back to the defense and then trying to locate where everybody was difficult, and maybe the routes had something to do that with that, the protection, and maybe Dak having to turn around and find everybody again, was something that wasn't one of his strengths. But now you see Dak, several times a game, under center, fake, turn the back, and then make a throw and locate where everybody is. There's a lot of confidence that these receivers are going to be where they need to be. They still need to work on some of the separation, that other teams seem to enjoy. Dallas's receivers will struggle with that a little bit, but overall, though, when you see a play action pass, 9 times out of 10, there's going to be a completion from Dak Prescott. He's done a really nice job of managing that, and that's the play caller, that's the quarterback's confidence, and that's the receivers and the backs helping him out with that execution.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, and then I mean, what do you think about the Flanoy stuff? I mean, how much of a role should he have now in the offense, especially when you consider getting guys like Turpin, Lamb, of course, is always going to be wide receiver one. But how does his role in the offense now begin to evolve
Yeah,
after that huge game?
yeah. There's we owe the confidence that you have. I mean, he played very well against Green Bay. The couple of opportunities he had, they needed him to play very well against the Jets. They really did. They needed somebody to step up, whether it was with Turpin, anybody that was dressed that day. They had all those guys step up when they dressed him against Green Bay, and it worked out. So you saw a little glimpse in Green Bay of Flanoy playing well. They had some advantages in this Jets game. We talked about the Jets secondary, other than Sauce Gardner, was having its issues. They took advantage of that. So now, as you mentioned earlier, you move on to Carolina, and later in the week we'll talk about how do you deal with J.C. Horn, he, a very highly touted, drafted, a highly drafted corner. Him, Patrick Surtain, back to back in that draft. Surtain seemed to have had the better right now. Horn has been injured. We'll see how Horn is playing, but yeah, with Jackson and others, will the Panthers present a tougher challenge? But this is now every week, that what is going to happen, and we'll see what happens when uh, you get Turpin back, and with Mingo looking like he is starting to practice and all that. How will all these will it take care of itself? Will attrition take care? Will there be more injuries along the way that allows them to make the moves? They're going to try and ramp Mingo back up. He was doing all that stuff in training camp, and then 4 weeks off. 4 games. Now you got to ramp him back up to playing ability, and so they're going to have to make some decisions. But the positive thing is that Flanoy, the Green Bay game and this game against the Jets, he showed up. Now, can you show up against Carolina when they ask you to? Can you show up against the Commanders and then the Denver Broncos? It's going to be, we've seen stuff before. We've seen this about with Turpin, or excuse me, with Tolbert, where Tolbert has a game where you're kind of like, wow, okay, good game, and then he disappears for 3 games. There needs to be some consistency at wide receiver, and hopefully Ryan Flanoy will bring that to him that they have not had from that save from that guy that's been the 2 or the 3 when he's had to play.
All right, we'll get some injury updates and some more Cowboys specific questions that we have coming up here in a few minutes. But now let's go ahead and take a look at that Panthers offense. You're listening to the Love of the Star podcast. Love of the Star is an Odyssey podcast. You can find it on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcast, presented by the On Time Experts. Visit theontimeexperts.com. Click the book now button. You will pay less over time because they correctly diagnose your issue and fix it right the first time. Same day or you don't pay policy for certain repairs. 100% satisfaction guarantee, no excuses, no exceptions, and it's transparent pricing, no surprise add-ons or hidden fees. They're locally trusted with years of experience serving the community. They are absolutely fantastic. So now, Broadus, we head to Carolina, back-to-back road nooners here, and it seems like the Cowboys, this has become like a staple opponent. A staple stadium that was it like 3 years in a row now. They go to Carolina to take on these Panthers. Bryce Young, Teteroa McMillan, a guy that the Cowboys absolutely loved in the draft, but the Panthers snagged him at 8 overall. What do you see? And the Panthers, of course, they have Rico Dowdle now. He's off a monster game. He's telling the Cowboys they better buckle up for what he's got coming for them. And they had a huge comeback victory over the Dolphins on Sunday. But what do we need to know about these Panthers offensively?
Yeah, I tell you what, there's been some times where they have struggled at quarterback, and Bryce Young has had moments where he has been very good, and then there's the moments where all of a sudden he feels pressure in the pocket, tries to retreat, gets to the outside, drops the ball, takes a sack, turnover. There's things like that have happened to him throughout his career. He just has not been able to put games back to back to back consistently enough for the Carolina Panthers. It's almost like one step forward, 2 steps back with the way he's played. Last week on tape, though, they mauled the Miami Dolphins in the run game. I mean, they literally mauled them, and in a way where they took the fight to the Dolphins defensively. Dolphins didn't tackle particularly well, but it's kind of a theme through the season, though. If you go and watch the runs that the Panthers have had, whether it's Chuba Hubbard or with Rico Dowdle, they've had some nice carries, and we'll see what happens with Hubbard this week. He's dealing with a calf injury. There's some thought that he might not play. If that's the case, then Rico Dowdle will get the start with Trevor Etienne being the backup, and DJ Dallas will probably be the third. But this team, they're a much better team running the football. Their offensive line, at times when it comes to pass protection, will really, really struggle. They've had some injuries across the offensive line. They seem to be a better group right now when Brady Christensen, he took over a couple weeks ago at right guard. They've had some injuries along the line. These tackles set extremely deep, and you can walk them back into Bryce Young, and they tend to struggle with power. Taylor Moton, who has been a long-time offensive lineman for the Panthers, was drafted in the 17 draft. You could see that a little bit of some wear and tear, age starting to take over for him. Just not as mobile as he once did. So similar to what you have to do. Those were young tackles with the Jets last week. Similar to what you have to do against these Panther tackles are movement is going to give them problems. They're not the most fleet of foot. They're not the most athletic group. But like I said, there's times you can get to them. But that was impressive what they were able to do against the Dolphins. They took the fight to the Dolphins. They played on the Dolphins side of the football when it came to running the football. They were very physical. The Dolphins missed some tackles along the way. And I'm sure that Rico Dowdle is going to run with the same toughness that he's shown really all season. And I'm sure that the Cowboys, he's absolutely right. Dallas was not very good in that run game last week against the Jets. They got beat up a little bit. They weren't in position to make tackles. This is going to be a challenge. If I'm Dave Canellis in this game, I am thinking about, okay, Dallas all of a sudden maybe found a pass rush. I'm a little worried about my offensive tackles holding up. Let's see if Dallas's run defense is really as good as everybody thought it might be. This will be a big challenge for Dallas to have to win at the line of scrimmage, because this is a group they'll try and beat you up.
So what went wrong for the Cowboys' run defense versus the Jets? We know the Jets have a really good rushing attack. They have all season, but man, it felt like
Oh, they
everybody
got
was getting
blocked.
pushed
They got
around.
blocked. Oh, they got blocked. I mean, we talk about Kenny Clark. We've talked about, when Dallas does not win up front, it is very clear what happens. It's, sometimes you have guys in there, maybe Mozzie Smith subs in, and Mozzie's actually been a little bit better against the pass than he has the run. But you get some guys, you get Osa gets blocked, Kenny Clark gets blocked, Solomon Thomas got blocked, the edges got blocked, the linebackers. I mean, that ball was up on the linebackers. It was pretty clear if the Jets would have been able to withstand the Cowboys early in that game and it turns into a very tight game, I would have worried about Dallas maybe losing that game just with the Jets running the football. They had no answer for Breece Hall. And the way the Panthers run the ball is kind of unique. Yeah, they'll try and beat you up, but there's a lot of motion that goes to it. So all of a sudden you get receivers across, you get tight ends across, and then they'll run the ball off that. They try and give you that kind of that eye candy stuff and then run it off that. But Dallas has got to they've got to do a much better job of getting off blocks. They like I said, it was pretty much everybody that was involved in the run game. If you go back and you look at the metrics, if you're one of those folks that believe in that, there were even the best that they were doing was Oso Diggy. When he was on the field, the Jets were still averaging 5 yards a carry, but everybody else was in that 7 to 8 yards a carry range. The whole front seven. There wasn't anybody out there that was not a part of the problems they had. And I mentioned it earlier. If I'm Dave Canellis, I'm like, okay, I saw something here. I'm going to load up Rico Dowdle, and I'm going to see how well Dallas can really tackle in this football game. I want to see how well that these linebackers, we'll see what happens with Jack Sanborn this week. He was playing a little bit better. Then you get Shamar James is in there. I mean, Murray. They got beat up front, and then all of a sudden you had some guys that were like James ran a couple of blocks, Murray ran a couple of blocks. I mean, then when they don't fit and they don't get off blocks, you're going to get beat up in the run game. And that's the thing that I think that's the one thing that Carolina could do to this Dallas defense. Tet McMillan on the outside, like I said, he's they get him the football. He's yet to score a touchdown. It seems to be that they've thrown the football to Hunter Renfrow, has had a couple of touchdowns that I watched on film today, and then also too, that Hubbard had a couple of touchdowns throwing the ball to him. So it hasn't been Tet McMillan yet, but man, he is a quality wide receiver. And they also like to throw the ball down in the goal line to their tight ends. So that's a couple of different ways they've scored. So you're going to get a lot of different looks, like I say, running the football. You're going to get the flips. You're going to get motion. You're going to get straight handoffs. They try and attack you a lot of different ways.
Okay, so when it comes to stopping, I mean, of course, stopping the run is going to be the focal point this week, without question. When they do drop back to pass, Tet hasn't scored, but he's clearly their number one wide receiver that they're trying to get the ball to, right?
Yeah, absolutely. He's the one guy that we talked about coming out of Arizona, that was his ability as a route runner, his ability to make contested catches, his ability to find space. The problem is that the quarterback always doesn't find ways to get it to him. Yes, he's made catches, but they should get him even more involved than they really do. Leggett hasn't been the factor that they probably thought he was when he was drafted out of South Carolina. He is a big guy, though. I mean, as a big physical guy, we've seen some big receivers. You think about guys like Philadelphia and places like that kind of size, with the wide receivers and stuff like that. So it'll be a challenge that way to deal with that. And Hunter Renfrow is a sneaky player out of the slot. Guy that can very well, convert the third downs that you need. their offensive line, the protection has not always been great, and the quarterback gets a little skittish in the pocket. So that's really kind of affected the way that they've thrown the football. But running the football is probably going to be their best avenue. Dallas, if they do throw the football, Dallas's ability to play up front, but with movement, with the twist, the deep setting tackles. If these tackles are going to set deep, and I mean the way they come off the line is they get deep and try and then get depth and then get in front of you and stop you in your tracks. But they have had problems, stopping people in their tracks. They get depth and then they get walked. So you got to be ready to, when they set deep, just carry them right to Bryce, right to Bryce Young, and he'll maybe have to spin out of there, or he'll feel the pressure and try and go forward. And then guys have been winning on the inside against them.
Okay. Wow. All right. So, I mean, the Cowboys pass rush obviously came alive versus the Jets.
It did.
What did you see from Eberflus that allowed that to happen? Obviously, James Houston's been a monster. Dante Fowler probably had by far his best game of the season.
Yeah.
Is that something you think they can duplicate versus Carolina?
Well, you would hope. I think that the Jets' offensive line is better than what this Carolina's offensive line is. So yeah, where it was a difference last week, you saw some different looks. We saw some more of the twist of the front. We saw the stuff where they put Osa and Solomon Thomas on the same side, had Houston standing up. They ran two penetrators and a looper. Yeah, I think there's going to be if the reason they did what they did to the Jets is the Jets were willing to man their stunts. And when I mean man their stunts is usually on offensive line, if there's a stunt, you're going to pass it to the next guy. So it's usually a jam. A guy comes in, they jam him to the next guy, and then come off to get the looper. The Jets didn't do that. Jets were manning their stunts. And you saw some of it too with Carolina. Teams have got to be willing to just bump those stunts, as I would say, bump, and then pick up the looper. And that way you keep everything kind of solid. When you get blockers that set on different levels, that's where you have the penetration. That's where you have the sacks. That's where you have the pressure. We saw that last week with the Jets. Their offensive linemen were setting on different levels. You got to get shoulder to shoulder and then pass those stunts, keep everything really solid up front. We've seen it with Carolina a little bit, though. They've had some problems, but it gets, like I say, gets the Dolphins with Brady Christensen playing at right guard, number 70. He gave them a little bit more stability than what they've had in the past couple of weeks. They've had some problems with. This is not the most athletic group. I don't think the tackles are athletic at all. And I think there's some things you could do to them movement-wise that you saw with the Jets. But hopefully Dallas gets the situation where it'd be really nice if they can, build a lead like they did against the Jets, take Carolina out of running football. Carolina's path is to get Dallas, to get Dallas to punt a couple of different times and then turn into just a running machine. That would be their path to victory, in my opinion. I don't know if Carolina can beat Dallas throwing the football, but running the football could be. That's going to be their path. But it's going to be up to their defense to be able to get Dallas off the field in order to get those opportunities.
Yeah, and we'll look at the Panthers defense here in the coming days as we get set for the game on Sunday. But yeah, I don't know. The secondary is still, I mean, thank God they got the pass rush versus the Jets, but Deron Bland, I mean, he's just not himself right now, is he?
Yeah, and and talking to people in the organization, I was concerned that Bland was still dealing with a foot injury and stuff like that, but he's a healthy player. And talking to folks there about his situation, you saw a little bit more man coverage last week. I think they were at 83% zone, 17% man. How you handle McMillan and Leggett and Renfro, will be and I'm not gonna say it's a task. I think the run defense is going to be a bigger problem.
Totally.
I just don't trust Bryce Young. Now Bryce Young's capable. I know there were some games last year, I think Kansas City, there was a game. There was a couple of back-to-back games. He just is not very consistent throwing the football, and you're going to get turnovers with him, especially in the pocket. But if this turns into like we saw with the Jets that first drive, where all of a sudden you're driving 70-something yards, you're taking 8 minutes off the clock, and yeah, that's a tough way to go. But this Cowboys secondary, it's probably the challenges are there. If the quarterback play was better, then I would be more concerned. I'm just going absolutely into this game concerned about them running the football. I think because to me, Dallas, nobody's challenged Dallas that way, like what happened with the Jets last week. The Bears, I think, but the Bears did it on that 19-play drive, or because they were throwing the ball with success, but then they got that ball and they just started running it. I think Dallas's run defense got a little bit of a break because teams were throwing the ball so well against them. I just don't think Carolina can throw the ball well enough. I think it's going to have to be, and they might be forced to if we all of a sudden look up and the Panthers are struggling on defense and Dallas is continuing to score points. That's going to take Carolina right out of their ability to run the football. Dallas has got to put points up and kind of help their defense with that in that way.
All right, you're listening to the Love of the Star podcast. Love of the Star is an Odyssey podcast. You can find it on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcast, presented by the On Time Experts, the official AC heating and plumbing of Love of the Star podcast and the Dallas Cowboys. Go to the ontimeexperts.com, click the book now button, and let them take care of you at the highest level. Now, sticking with the defense here for a second, what did you think of Wanye Thomas filling in for Malik Hooker and Shamar James getting a lot more responsibility with Jack Sanborn going down?
Yeah, I think the thing and we'll start with James, and he had the 15 tackles. If you believe in the the next gen stats with where he was 10 of passing the ball, they were 10 of 11 on him because of nearest defender. Sometimes that gets skewed a little bit, but that's things we kind of look at though. I do like the fact that he wants to get to the ball. He has a nose for the ball. I would like to see him be more as a rusher, that fifth guy. At Florida, I didn't think he had the greatest instincts in the world when it came to pass coverage. I think there were times where he was lost a little bit in coverage. And I'm not saying that it's something that's it's detriment here. I just say I think his strengths are being around the line of scrimmage, blitzing, attacking the pocket, being around the ball, however he can do that, I think is a good thing. I think if you look at Thomas, there was nothing really, massive in this game where you would go, wow, that was just a, safety not getting over. Where's the range? What are they doing here? This team that you're about to play is a terrible deep ball team. And I say that in hope that all of a sudden they don't find the deep ball against the Cowboys. But when you look at this team throw the ball deep, they struggle. They just don't do it. So that's where you kind of notice safety play the most. But I think overall, when trying to keep things in front of you, trying to make sure that when you need to make a sure tackle, you're there doing that. I think Thomas, I don't think there was any major gaffes where you say, gosh, dang it, that was a bust on the safeties right there. So we'll continue to monitor what's going on with Hooker. But Thomas, through one game, I think that he acquitted himself very, very well. Nothing major that you would say, wow, okay, need to think about something different there.
Okay, good news. Now, when it comes to the offensive line and some of those injuries, you have Nate Thomas at left tackle, Adeniji in for Tyler Smith at left guard. You still got Hoffman, Bass, and then Steele. Bass has been playing his tail off for sure. Where are we at with the offensive line right now, and what are some of the updates? Could we expect either of the Tylers back for the Carolina game?
Well, the one that I think the one you need to keep an eye on is the left tackle, and that would be Guyton. I think the other ones that we might be in a situation now too where uh, with Tyler Smith dealing with the knee tendonitis, he's got a hip problem, he has an ankle problem. We might be in a thing where he is going to play 3 games and then have to rest a game. We just until maybe they get into the bye and but they're going to have to monitor that situation. Obviously, he dressed for the game. He was a break glass in a case of emergency guy. Thankfully they didn't have to use him in that game. But this might be something that they're going to have to deal with all year. And so maybe you get 3 games and then you have to sit a game. So you got a bye coming up here in what I think 3 weeks is what it is. I think it's
Yep.
Carolina. Yeah, Carolina. Carolina, Denver, Arizona bye. So maybe maybe
You got the Commanders in there too.
Oh, the Commanders. So yeah, okay, you're looking at 4 weeks. So yeah, it's the Commanders are next. That's right. So Commanders, Denver, and then on your way you go there. So yeah, it's you're gonna have to kind of manage these things along the way. I do feel like though, I think that Booker is a little bit still away. Him and Lamb working. I was talking to some people in the organization the other day about that. They are ahead of schedule. Are they ready to play right now? No, but everything coming out of that has been positive. So hopefully, in the next couple of weeks, the Commanders game, that Denver game, maybe you'll have those guys back and playing. But that part of it's very, very positive. Like I say, the one that seems like he's going to have the ability to play this week, and we'll see, is Guyton with the with him dealing with the concussion.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I would probably slow play Tyler Smith, give him one more week, and then
That's the hope. Yeah, that's the hope. I believe that's the hope.
Yeah, because then you get the Commanders. You're going to want them for that game. Denver, you'd love to have them. And then even Arizona. I mean, they have a pretty good defense for sure. But
Right.
I think with the way that these guys played versus the Jets, I would feel comfortable versus Carolina. I mean, Derek Brown, and we'll talk about the Panthers defense. They got some guys on that interior, but I would definitely try and keep Tyler Smith on the ice here for this Panthers game, especially because you've seen like proof in the pudding with backups on the offensive line. They can still run the ball and they can still pass protect and they can still, put up 37 points. So Tyler Smith, you need him healthy for some of these other games coming up. But that's good. That's good. What'd you think of Nate Thomas and for Guyton?
Yeah, I think that Nate Thomas, I know there was a lot of initial talk that, wow, Nate Thomas needs to be starting instead of Guyton. And I would say both are playing at a nice level right now. I would say there were things with Nate Thomas that were that some of the similar problems that Guyton has. I think there's movement at times that, there was a couple of different times where McDonald spun on Thomas and he didn't react very quick. I know the big pass they had over the crossing route to Flanoy was a great play by Dak. And, he felt Thomas get quick pressured and now he had to slide to his right to get him an angle to throw the ball over to throw the ball to Flanoy. So that happened a couple of different times. I think some of the stuff in the running game was very good. I think both guys, you'd have to be happy with both players. I do feel like that Guyton will be the starter when he comes back. I don't think it was anything to where you're saying, oh, wow, we'll just put Guyton on the bench and let Thomas be the starter full time. I think that talk is a little premature. I will say this though, and I need to figure this out. Did the offensive line coaches in the Green Bay game, even before all these injuries that we saw, they had Thomas in there playing at right tackle with Steele. And is this now going to be where the offensive line coaches are saying, listen, we need to continue to substitute? Maybe we see Thomas at some left tackle. Maybe we see him at some right tackle when everything's healthy. But, I know that we with Brian Schottenheimer really wasn't interested in subbing guys in and out. But I think maybe his offensive line coach has convinced him, like, listen, let's see what we got a little bit here with Thomas. and they were able to make those switches. So even if Guyton's healthy back, heck, we might see Thomas in there some at left tackle, just giving him a series of 2 a game.
Okay, and then finally, what'd you think about the Jaden Blue debut?
Really nice blitz pickup. You worried about that was the one thing. How much does he really understand what's going on? Obviously, the blitz pickup I thought was really a good sign for him. Dak moved him from the left side to the right side, and he ran a route. He didn't like he short circuited on that. Didn't have a lot of room to run. I think what you got to do is you got to try and get him the ball more on the edge. With the Panthers, they've struggled a little bit with some of their edge defense. So now you got to find a way to not so much inside run stuff, but make sure you can try and get him to the outside. Some of that flip, crack toss, something like that to let him get the ball and then to get to that corner and be able to turn around. But a really good blitz pickup. That was very encouraging because you worried about them putting him in the game, him short circuiting, and him getting Dak hit. And that didn't happen in that situation for the limited stuff that he got. But if he's going to continue to play, they're going to need to find more ways either to throw him the football or toss him the ball where he can use that speed.
Okay, we did get a couple of questions in the mailbag centered around the trade deadline and how you would approach it. Dow Chamberlain asking, like, what would your record need to be at the deadline, you think, in order for them to really feel confident?
I've said this all along that and I've been very, very consistent about this. So now we're starting to hear the questions. So I feel like I'm a little bit ahead of this one. You have to prove to Jerry Jones that you're not a floundering football team. If you go out there and say you play with your food and you lose to Carolina, I'm just saying if these things happen, you lose to Carolina, you mess around, you lose the Commanders, and you go to Denver and you look terrible, and now you've lost 3 games. So your record is now 2-5-1. I don't know if I'm really interested in, trying to go out and say, oh, wow, we're 1 player away on defense. I still think this defense, it's still one of the bottom defenses in the league. And I don't know if 1 player can elevate this team to make it a mid-pack defense. That's the thing that you're actually trying to do. If you're going to go out and make a trade, and I know we had this discussion on Cowboys Break, myself, Ambar Garcia, Derek Eagleton, Vaj Lombardi had this conversation. They were interested in just going maybe to potentially make, a mid-level move, send the 5th to somebody and get some. And I'm like, listen, if I'm going to trade, let's go trade. Let's go, but if it means giving up one of those 1s or giving up your 2, now think about this. You make a trade where you give up and you go get one of these major players. This is what you have to think about. You've got your pick and you've got Green Bay's pick, but you have a 1st, a 2nd. I don't believe you have a 3rd, and I don't believe you have a 4th, and you've got a 5th. So you got it. You're going to get some compensatory picks and things like that. But if you make one of these major trades for one of these edge rushers and it's going to cost you potentially a 1 and a 2, you better make sure you know what you're doing, because now you're down a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4. So your draft looks a little different doing that. So you just got to make sure that if you go get this guy, it's going to be a difference-making type of player potentially, because if it doesn't work out that way and you just flounder around and you don't make the playoffs, then that looks just like all the other trades. It looks just like the Trey Lance trade. It looks like the Mingo trade. I mean, Pickens has worked out so far so good, but I would hate, and I think Jerry Jones, I think this team is going to have to convince Jerry Jones to go make a trade. And they're going to do it if they're going to have to do it in the next 3 weeks with their record. Like I say, 0-3, no reason to. Just take your picks, keep them, move on, and see how the season ends. But if you win all 3 games, and now you're sitting there like, well, we need 1 more player to maybe put this thing, maybe go get a division, go win the division, or set ourselves up for the playoffs, then by all means, you've given the owner some ammunition to go do that.
Yeah, I think the sweet spot.
Or reason to go do that is what I should say. Yeah.
5-3-1 would be kind of the record I'd be looking at to feel like, okay,
yeah,
2 games over 500 there. And, maybe, especially with the way the league is right now, you have no more undefeated teams. There's nobody in the NFC that you're like, oh my gosh. I mean, Detroit's starting to come on here and look pretty good. The Eagles are kind of always going to be around for sure. But yeah, I mean, I would say that 5-3-1. Do you go get a linebacker? Do you go to get an edge rusher? I mean, defensively, name a position and they could use it. So just have to kind of see who comes available as well. Right now, it's hard to predict who are those players, but as we inch closer and closer to the deadline, if the Cowboys are in the thick of it, we can start piecing things together about which teams might be willing to move on from their guys.
There's some teams that are in that could potentially be in sell now mode. You know, I think Cincinnati made a move to try and give them some stability till Joe Burrow gets back. But if that doesn't work out with Joe Flacco, they could be a sell team. Depending on what happens with the Dolphins, you know, Chris Greer might be into job preservation mode. And then all of a sudden, is he making trades? Is he making trades as a fire sale to save his job? Or is he thinking, well, hell, I'm not going to help the next general manager here. You know, why would I? I'm trying to win games. I'm trying to save my job. Unless, you know, Stephen Ross walks in there and says, listen, you need to start moving some players, you know. But there's some teams that are teetering right now on being Baltimore could be a sell team. You know, if things start, you know, maybe Baltimore kind of gets healthy again and figures some things out and sneaks into the playoffs. But right now they, you know, the Saints, you know, Cincinnati, the Raiders, there's a lot of these 1-4 teams that need to maybe think about what they're doing.
All right, well, that'll do it for us for today's episode of the Love the Star podcast. Thank you so very much for hanging out with us as we prep our bodies for week 6. I cannot believe we are already here 6 weeks into the season. Cowboys go to Carolina on Sunday, and we'll be back probably Friday, Saturday with the game preview. And we appreciate you very much. Thank you. We'll be back.